Hey Dons, I'm Andrew Lapp, hosting another episode of SAC News from home. Our top story today: Santa Ana College and Santiago Canyon College will only be holding online instruction in the fall, no face to face classes. More details are expected soon, so keep an eye on their webpage for further developments. This week we talked to SAC's athletic department, and we chatted with a writer from the SAC student produced production Z Joined. But first, some of our student reporters share their stories.
SAC Student Life held an anxiety one-on-one workshop to help students identify and cope with anxiety. Doctors Jill Kappel and Renee Yoakum advised those suffering from anxiety to take a moment to check in with themselves often and also practice self-compassion. Anxiety is very common amongst college students, and the workshop highlighted that anxiety is a natural response to stressors. Still, it was recommended that anxiety sufferers pay special attention to their diet, regularly exercise, sleep well, and practice mindfulness. One of the more interesting tips from Dr. Yoakum was to perform a sub-occipital release, where individuals press a ball to tense neck muscles to help relax the individual and help one to fall asleep. The Health and Wellness Center is now offering telehealth consultations, and if you have any questions and concerns, email sachealthcenter@sac.edu.
The city of Santa is taking advantage of the coronavirus stay-at-home orders. As there are less motorists and less pedestrians out in the streets, they are speeding up construction of the OC streetcar and any maintenance work out in the city. And as these stay-at-home orders are being lifted, the city is warning the citizens to stay away from the construction to be safe. Reporting for Santa Ana College News, I'm Victor Garcia.
Hello, I'm here with Chris Posada, a fellow student at Santa Ana College. I wanted to ask you, since the beginning of the quarantine and practicing self-isolation, how has your student life changed?
Well, as a student that uses the resources at Santa Ana College almost daily, it has been difficult to adjust to learning without access to the library or the learning centers.
And how has that affected your classes overall?
Well, we have some of the best instructors in all of California, and they're doing their best to make sure that every student has access to help whenever they need it. I personally have been able to work with them to make sure that I succeed and pass my classes this semester.
I also know that you were a writer for the theater department's web series. I wanted to ask you the status of the web series since students are not able to come together and write for the series or perform from the series.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing for everyone as we were pretty much halfway done with the first episode of the semester when we were all told to stay at home. As of right now, the production is halted. It's possible that we might be behind schedule for about a year. Um, but the cast and the crew, they're fantastic people, amazing people. So I know we'll all get through this together.
And lastly, I know that there is a potential chance that classes will not go back to person lectures for the fall semester. And how do you feel about continuing to do online classes throughout the fall semester? Or what are your thoughts about perhaps having a hybrid class where you do something online and go for a few hours to in-person lectures?
Yeah, that's kind of the question that's on everyone's mind at the moment. I think that it comes down to public health and safety. The last thing that we need is for us to prematurely return to campus and prolong this pandemic. I think as long as we continue to practice social distancing and continue to persevere through these unprecedented times, everything should fall back into place. I think the important thing right now is for us to continue to support each other, keep in contact with each other, let your friends and loved ones know you care about them, and before you know it, this will all be over.
Good afternoon, Dons. This is Josh Garcia with sports. Um, Everybody's been handling COVID-19 in many different ways. I have my guest speaker here with me. I have the athletic director for Santa Ana College Athletics. It is Mary Haggerty. Mary, thank you again for joining me today, for taking time out of your busy schedule.
You're welcome.
How have you been doing as of lately?
I'm doing pretty well considering. I think, I feel really blessed that I have a home I enjoy. I have people that I'm around that I like, and a dog who seems to enjoy the company. And I was able to get my virtual network set up here at home, so it's like being at my desktop at work. So it's all things considered doing pretty well. It's not as fun as my normal job when I get to supervise athletic contests, but things are going well.
That's great. That's excellent. Glad to hear. So obviously, many people have been affected um, in their academic lives as well as their personal lives. Um, for students, I know this is heartbreaking not being able to participate in their respective sports. How has the Santa Ana College athletics department reacted to this whole situation?
I think like everybody, at first it was quite a shock. If you'd have told me, and I've been in athletics my entire professional career, if you'd have told me something would happen to cause sports just to be canceled for more than a week or so, I really couldn't imagine such a situation. But I think when the NBA shut down and then the NCAA, it really hit home how serious the situation is. And our coaches, most of them teach other classes besides their sport, and most of them were trained as online instructors and are very good instructors. So the transition to the remote instruction was really almost seamless for our coaches. And the other part, they all have, of course, their players, their team, they have all their contact information. They text regularly, so communication didn't really get disrupted too much by the pandemic. So I think, as far as adjustments, I think our people have done an amazing job and made it as least amount of disruption as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's great to hear, obviously, because, no, obviously, like you mentioned, no one expected this to ever happen. And it's great to hear that these students as well as staff have been able to somewhat transition quite fluidly and quite easily. What are kind of the plans now that we've canceled spring? Now we're looking forward to the fall of later this year. What are some of the plans moving forward for SAC athletics?
What we're trying to do is prepare for pretty much every different scenario. So we're preparing, expecting our fall to go as usual. We'll be ready for that. But we're also preparing if there's an order down from the governor, if things get shut down, if social distancing is still in effect in the fall, that makes competition a little bit more challenging, obviously. But we're trying to prepare for every various scenario. And we kind of take our guidance from the governor, first of all, and all the local organizations as far as, things opening up and that sort of thing. And then we have the 3C2A, which is our governing body, and they're very good about communicating scenarios. One of the things that they're doing is they're adjusting eligibility rules, something that a lot of people may not understand, but taking classes online is very different than taking them in person. And in other experience I've had as an academic advisor, most students do terribly in online courses, and they take them because it sounds great. I don't have to go to class, but it's very challenging. And because of that, the 3C2A is adjusting eligibility. Normally from the fall season to the next fall season to play your second year, you'd have to complete 24 units with the 2.0. Now they're backing it down to just 12. So basically, if you completed full time during your season of sport in the fall, you'll be eligible this fall. And I was really pleased to hear that, because our students have been impacted. You can imagine many of them don't have computers at home. They may not have Wi-Fi. And like I said, the learning online is significantly different than being in person. So there's a lot of eligibility things being adjusted. We're also preparing, the hygiene aspect, and we already have to, really pay attention to hygiene as far as keeping mats clean and the training room clean and those sorts of things, just because of what we do at perspiration and close contact. But we're looking at scheduling other cleanings, other cleaning supplies, even personal protective equipment for our trainers, possibly for our students, things like that. So we're trying to prepare and be ready for whatever happens. That we're in a position that we feel like the big thing that is something that we have to plan is the physicals for our student athletes and the paperwork and the medical care information. And we can't really do in-person physicals until some of the restrictions are lifted. And if we don't do them at Santa Ana College with our team doctors, our students are going to have to pay for their own. And we don't want that to happen. It's an expensive cost, and many of our students just can't afford it. So the big challenge right now is trying to work out how we're going to do our physicals. But we're expecting to be ready to go. We know that the fall could also get canceled, and the remote learning may just stay all the way through the fall. There may be some exceptions. So we're just trying to prepare for just any type of scenario that we might face.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's good to hear that, these students won't be impacted too terribly, knowing that there's different alternatives and that there's solutions around these sort of things, and knowing that, they're not alone and that they have resources like such as yourself and other people at campus, knowing that they're able to help them every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again, Athletic Director Mary Haggerty. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. That'll be it for me, Don. Back to you guys at the studio.
Thousands of local Santa Ana residents took advantage of a drive-through food giveaway at Main Place Mall last weekend. Volunteers from the Power of One Foundation handed out fresh produce and even something extra for Mother's Day.
Today's a special day because Northgate donated roses to us, so now we're giving roses out to every car that comes through for Mother's Day.
Volunteers assembled packages of groceries from pallets of donated produce. Food recipients stayed inside their cars at all times to comply with social distancing guidelines.
This will be the biggest weekend because we're going to push to about 7,000 cars.
We are now averaging 5,000 cars, over that, but 5,000 cars every Saturday.
The Foundation's volunteers have grown accustomed to serving the long lines of cars that spilled out onto nearby streets. Organizers even managed to secure live musical acts and provide fresh barbecue for volunteers to keep spirits high during a pandemic that continues to drag on.
We're always looking for more support, whether it's volunteers coming out and helping us, or if they're able to give. We accept monetary donations on our website. That's powerofonefoundation.org/donate. We get a little bit tighter ship going on, and we have volunteers that are coming back.
In Santa Ana for SAC News, this is Andrew Lapp. That wraps up this edition of SAC News. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified when we upload new episodes. And as always, stay safe.